So the other week we watched the Scooby Doo, starring the Matthew Lillard and that dog,
whatever that dog's name is.
Yeah, and so then we watched Scooby Doo 2.
Starring also Matthew Lillard, but I think they replaced the dog.
It seems like they replaced the dog. Like this dog more. This thing came out in
2004, I believe.
Took them 2 years.
According to this, 2204, but yeah.
Yeah.
Here's some mail for you.
Oh, okay. Before I open it, I will say Monsters Unleashed. Do you feel like monsters got unleashed in this film?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Then it delivered.
Titled, yeah.
Yeah, it delivers on its title. You got any fun facts about this thing or anything like that?
Scooby Doo 2?
Yeah.
In the opening credits, some guy's name is Richard Suckle, which means his name is Dick Suckle.
That's very funny.
That's all I got.
Also, the other movie we watched, spoilers, better.
Yeah.
20-year anniversary. Happened like yesterday or something like that.
Yeah.
So
we were ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Is it curve or curb?
I think we just might be streets ahead.
Okay.
Anyways, I'm going to open this thing up. I don't know why. I really want one of these to be just soaking wet one day. If we ever watch a movie like Waterworld or something like that, I want it to just be soaking wet. Scooby Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed. Dooby Doo. The dog looks better. 2 out of 10. What did you give the other movie? Did you also give it a 2 out of 10?
It's ahead of the curve.
Okay.
I could give it an F. I don't remember what the other letter says.
Okay. Yeah, this movie is
bad.
Somehow worse.
Yes.
I would be lying if I said I didn't expect it to be better.
Oh, you were convinced. You were like, oh, we gotta watch it. It's gonna be fun. I know it.
Yeah.
And
so
it wasn't.
wrong.
It was boring.
Is there anything to say about this thing?
Their hideout sucks. Fred's hair sucks.
Uh-huh.
Dog looks good. Everything else sucks.
Did it get a laugh?
No, I didn't laugh at any of this movie.
I would be lying if I said I didn't laugh when Peter Boyle is being followed by Shaggy and Scooby in the bushes. And he turns around and goes, bushes yowling at me again.
I was pissing around my phone because I was doing anything I could during this 90 minutes to not be watching this movie.
Yeah, so I will also say this. I didn't want to even really talk about it, kind of, because I was like, this is punching down. This feels like a really mean thing to say, and I don't mean it with any venom. This just legitimately barely counts.
As a movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's an F, obviously. Yeah.
It's definitely, it's unfortunately one of those kids movies where they're like, it's for kids, who cares?
Yeah.
Which is bad. Kids
deserve better. Kids do deserve better. Eating Soup Alone is a podcast hosted by me, Christopher Crumley, and co-hosted by Nicholas Johnson. We try our best to ramble incoherently about a handful of movies at least once a week. You got something burning in your little heart?
I don't know. I'll have to check my heart's notes. I'm tired of seeing Tom Cruise.
Yeah?
I don't got much more to that.
You don't like him?
Just don't like him anymore.
Yeah? Any more?
I liked Mission Impossible.
Uh-huh.
Haven't seen the rest of them. Just tired of seeing him.
Yeah.
People are always like, oh, he's the last big movie star. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the new Top Gun. He's in all the new Mission Impossibles. And he's 60 goddamn years old.
Yeah.
I get it. I get what Tom has selling. I'm not buying it anymore.
What a mixed bag that man is.
Yeah.
Because you get all the Scientology stuff, but then if you just compartmentalize that for a moment, which is very hard for some folk, I saw the Ghost Protocol, where he's hanging off like the tallest building in the world for real and stuff. So, I get what you're saying about the last great action star or whatever, but it falters for me a little bit because it's one of those things where like, maybe this will come with time. But you just hear people say something like, oh, he's a real Humphrey Bogart, or like, that kind of a thing where like you got that, like, oh, he's like a John Wayne, But like, would someone say that about someone about being Tom Cruise? I don't think so, because he's very like white toast to me.
Yeah, and a lot comes with oh, he's just like Tom Cruise, because like you said, the Scientology and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
I think that's hard to compartmentalize into
Uh-huh.
him just being a wacky person in general. Like if you listen to
The
interviews,
couch thing.
not even that. Just there's just like interviews where you listen to him talk and stuff like that, and he's obviously just not a completely sane guy. I think Christian Bale based his performance as Patrick Bateman off of an interaction with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I think Christian Bale went so far as to say just dead behind the eyes is how he described his interaction with Tom Cruise. You know who else? Scientology?
A lot, but who?
Beck grew up.
Really?
In the show. Yeah, like folks were Scientologists. I gotta find out what all the hubbub's about.
I'd like to, yeah. I'll go to a sermon, a mass. What do they have?
Gathering?
Sure.
That might be exclusive to Juggalos.
Do you think there's a Scientology place around us?
I guarantee it almost.
I'm gonna Google it real quick.
Do it.
Scientology. There's a church of there's a church of Scientology right in Michigan. They're right in Detroit.
Sounds about right. I think they might have just opened, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah. It's down on Griswold.
So you're saying we're gonna pay him a visit? Hey, we just came on down to see what all the hubbub's about.
I'm sure they'd be into that, yeah.
You think so?
It looks nice.
I hear you need cash money to get involved.
This place does look like you need... None of this looks like a church.
Yeah.
It looks like a cafe and a library. This part looks like a church, but... Yeah, this might be too rich for our blood.
Do they actively recruit?
I don't know.
I know that the people of the Jewish faith do not. That's kind of a baller move. That's something I don't like about other denominations, is the recruiting process. And that makes Judaism seem a little more lucrative because you're like, well, you know what? You guys aren't even trying to sell what you got. You know what I mean? Like, you're just holding on to it. You know what I'm saying?
Sorry, I'm just lost in these reviews. First review, 1 star. Crockashite. These people are money hungry. They want you to buy books instead of give them out for free.
That guy's just mad he couldn't get the books for free.
Yeah. If you truly want to change mankind and free our Thetans, make this free. Give me the books.
I like the idea that there are people campaigning for reform inside of the Scientology.
Yeah.
The Church of Scientology. When was Scientology founded?
That's a great question. I think like 1998 or something like that.
Look it up real quick.
I think it might be like in the 60s or 70s. Oh my god, so many paragraphs. I just want a number. The Church of Scientology was founded December 1953.
Wow. That's a
Yeah.
lot earlier than I thought. And obviously a lot earlier than you thought. That's about 40 years earlier than you thought. That's crazy. I mean, that's just... I can't imagine, like, in 1950, anybody buying that. You know what I mean? Like, people were freaking out that JFK was, like, the first Catholic president.
Yeah.
You know? And then there's someone out there who's like, yeah, the Scientology thing tracks. I'm into this.
Yeah. I think Tom Cruise did a lot for their numbers.
You think so?
He had to have.
Okay.
Also, he looks great, so there's got to be something to it, right? Or maybe he's just rich.
Interesting.
Rich people always look good. I mean, rich, famous people always look good.
Interesting. So you're saying maybe they do got some secrets?
Oh, no, let's get everything straight. They have secrets, no matter
I meant
what.
specific secrets. Good secrets.
About not aging.
Yeah.
And they keep poop every day. And it keeps you young.
For real?
Isn't that what told me Kim Kardashian said or whatever?
Yeah, I did read an excerpt from an interview she had done very recently where she said, honestly, if you told me that all I had to do was eat a little bit of poop each day to like continue to look young forever kind of a thing, I would probably go ahead and do it.
Maybe that's her trying to get into Scientology.
Maybe.
Anyway, Tom Cruise is old news in my opinion.
Yeah.
I hear Top Gun Maverick's really good.
Uh-huh.
I'll never see it.
No?
I'll never see Top Gun 1.
No?
I just got no interest.
Okay.
Like, people are like, yeah, it's just fun. But like when I look at it, I'm like, that's not fun that I want to have. So keep it away from me.
I'm gonna stay home, guys. Oh, shit. I'm gonna try to do my best here. This is a segue. Scientology is about 30 years older than one of the best horror films of all time, which we watched the other day. We watched The Shining.
We really did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've seen The Shining
I sure have.
a couple times.
Couple times.
When was the first time you saw The Shining?
Well, do I do mail first?
Oh,
That's traditionally how it goes, Chris.
Off the rails.
So you even listen to the show. We do mail. I go, Chris, what's your experience with this movie?
All right, let's see. I'm not going to read all of these, but this is pretty much what I expected. Is a sheet of paper that says, all work and no play makes Scooby Doo a doobie doo. A lot. And then it says 10 out of 10. Very good.
So, Chris, what's your experience with The Shining?
Me first.
I can go first if you'd like.
Hey, Nick, what's your experience with The Shining?
Oh, I'm glad you asked, Chris.
Yeah.
It's a movie I've been... it's a movie, of course, everybody knows about. Everybody's known about it.
Yeah, this ain't a secret.
This ain't no secret. This ain't Scientology, baby. This is The Shining.
But people are convinced there's a lot of secrets hidden in there.
In it, yeah. It's just something, one of those movies I've been meaning to get to for forever, and you're always like, yeah, you gotta watch The Shining. Yeah, you gotta watch The Shining.
Yeah.
And then, I don't remember where you were, or where you were going. I think you were going to watch your grandmother's house, I believe.
Okay.
Remember that's the first
That
time I
tracks.
saw it?
Rest in peace, Grandma.
Rest in peace, Grandma. And you were leaving, and I was like, I'm gonna start watching The Shining. And you're like, cool, let me know how it goes. And I texted you at one point, and I said, Chris, I'm 45 in this movie. Chris, I'm 45 minutes into this movie, and I think this is my favorite movie.
Yeah.
And then I unfortunately fell asleep like 20 minutes to the end.
Okay.
Because I started it so late. And the first thing I did when I woke up, I was like, oh, God, I washed my face, and I ran out to the living room, and I finished the rest of The Shining. Oh, it is good.
Yeah.
Chris, I know it's not this whole episode's going to be nothing new, but... Oh, this movie's good, Chris.
How many times have you seen it now?
3.
3?
Yeah.
Okay.
That first time I finished it,
Yeah.
I went throughout my day and was just thinking about it, did my chores, what I had to do for the day, and then I
Yeah.
just immediately watched it again.
Oh.
Yeah.
Run it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then today, yesterday. It's the third time I've seen it.
You don't have to spill your beans right now, but you got secrets?
Like in general, or about The Shining?
How about both?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I got some stuff you don't know about. I
Okay.
got some stuff cooking in here.
Interesting.
Chris, what's your experience with The Shining?
My experience with The Shining is shit. I mean, I saw it when I first was like, hey, yeah, movies are pretty good, I gotta find all these good movies and see them, and yeah, I don't know how to describe it other than I've seen it countless times since, and it's I mean, perhaps a corny thing to say, but it just casts a fucking spell every time. Every time I'm like, it always feels like I'm watching it for the first time.
Yeah, it's something that you said when I was watching it for the first time that has stuck with me, and I feel it the other 2 times I've seen it too, and you put it perfectly. It just puts you in a trance.
Yeah.
Like you're just a little like almost dizzy while watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting watching it with you the other day because I feel like primarily I've seen this movie alone.
I think it's better alone.
It's a lot better alone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was doing a lot of talking around and stuff like that.
You sure were.
I sure was. But yeah, that's one of the most interesting qualities. It's like surreal and dreamlike, and time just kind of slips away when you're watching it. Obviously, this is a movie based on a Stephen King book. I've read one, Salem's Lot.
Is there anything like this? They all take place in the same universe.
Yeah. I think we've talked about Salem's Lot very briefly when we watched the Salem's Lot movie, but just to reiterate real quick, it's a mixed bag. I absolutely love the half that has to do with the town. The supernatural stuff is pretty good, but it's this sort of weird mix of like grown adults doing Stranger Things / Goonies type shit.
Okay.
That is just weird. You know what I mean? And we watched the movie, and I thought, perhaps if they make these characters much younger, this will be a little more, it'll track a little better with like my just cultural sensibilities about like at what age you should be running around hunting vampires, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, they're old as fuck in the movie. And yeah, so anyway, Salem's Lot, pretty good book. I actually genuinely have been thinking about it a lot lately.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about reading it again. I would say I liked it, but like I said, just a mixed bag thing. This movie is not like a Stephen King book, really, except for the fact that the main character is a writer. That's a staple. But in the Stephen King books, I don't mean this in a mean way. Stephen King is not bad at like writing the main character to be like have some like dimensions and flaws, but there's also just that degree to which I'm basing this entirely off of Salem's Lot. You know what I mean? Like he just like strolls into the park and he meets that girl and she's like, "Oh my god, I'm your biggest fan." He's like, "Yeah, but we're gonna date then." You know, like things are just a little smooth for him. It seems like one of the first things I want to bring up. We'll go back to it later, but like Jack Nicholson, just a pile of shit, loser, failure at everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just hate him right off the bat.
Alcoholic, used to be a teacher. There's no indication of whether he was good or bad at that. Wants to be a writer now, obviously, is incapable of actually writing.
Pulled his son's arm off.
Yeah, not a great father, not a great husband. He's given this opportunity to care for the Overlook. As you pointed out, he does no caring for it. The wife does the whole time. And then even as a murderer, he fucks up. And throughout this whole movie, there's nothing that he does successfully.
Yeah.
Everything that he's ever done, he's always a failure. You know what I mean? And that's also a super interesting thing. This is a very scary and unnerving movie, and even Jack Nicholson himself is scary. Only really kills one guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, one guy dies in this movie.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Doesn't really achieve much. And I think that's what ends up making him sympathetic as well, is because he's a failure and because so much of the spooky shit's happening specifically to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he does end up being a bit sympathetic. Like, you don't totally hate him or, like, think he's an absolute monster, but then you do at the same time. Whatever. Getting a little off topic. But in short, this film is not much like a Stephen King novel, and I think that's justified and supported by the fact that Stephen King also hated it for a while. I think now he appreciates it for what it is.
Does he?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's just turned a new leaf a bit.
Well, good for him.
Just in the sense that he's like, I can appreciate it for what it is. Which is a bold thing to say about Kubrick, but I guess, I don't know. It's kind of a tricky sitch. I mean, like, imagine you wrote something, Kubrick did it, and you felt like you fucked it up. And you were just blinded to, like, the genius that he ended up.
I think it's a very, like, I guess I get it from King's perspective. For someone to take your thing and make it their thing. And to be like, oh, it's all flash and no substance, blah, 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 this and that. But also, it reminds me of, recently I was reading some stuff about the end of the second season of Twin Peaks.
Mm-hmm.
Where David Lynch came back for that last episode. And there's a lot of that episode that was written that did not make it into, and David Lynch changed a lot of it.
Yeah.
And people are like, that was a big deal. Like the people who wrote it, like Mark Frost and those other two losers who did season 2 were upset about it. And I read an interview with Mark Frost where he was like, no, if you give something to David Lynch and he goes, cool, I'm going to do some stuff with this.
Yeah.
You let David Lynch do some stuff with it because that's what he does. You want to see David Lynch do that. And I feel like if Stanley Kubrick is adapting your work and he wants to make a Stanley Kubrick movie out of it,
yeah,
awesome. All the power to you.
Mm-hmm. I know a lot of his movies are obviously critically acclaimed now, and I think even at the time, for the most part, some of them were. I think some of them were not received great in the beginning, but then it went on to be great. I wonder what the general perception was up until like 1980.
That's a great question.
You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if it was like, you know, maybe comparable to like the Mr. Eggman, who does like the witch thing, where everybody's like, oh, this is a guy's a genius, but like nobody really talks about it a bunch. It's not like he's like being thrown any amount of money he wants, kind of a thing. Or I wonder if it was like a Christopher Nolan type thing, or what. I'm just curious. Something I'm ignorant to. I wonder
what is Mr. Eggman?
What is his name? Like Kieran Eggers or something, or Robert Eggers or Roger Eggers?
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, no, you really threw me for a loop there. I was so confused.
But anyways, and also another thing, I mean, before we get into the movie too much, it's also really neat, like, it's kind of like Philip Seymour Hoffman working on a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Like, to have Stanley Kubrick and then Jack Nicholson is working for him. Like, that's a dream.
Yeah.
That's a dream combo. You know what I mean? A dream match, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I think Shelley Duvall is
yes,
amazing
also,
in this too.
for sure. Yes, Shelley Duvall. I just don't know that she ever reached, like, the star status that, like, it would be one of those things where it's like, you know, like, oh, man, I can't believe Shelley Duvall's working with, I don't know, I can't think of another director right now, but, like, Francis Ford Coppola.
I think it's because this movie, specifically Stanley Kubrick, destroyed her during this movie. Like, I've read some stuff here and there.
Yeah, I've read some stuff.
Yeah, he treated her just horribly. And
Yeah.
just
She seemed pretty mentally distraught in that little documentary we were watching afterwards.
Yes.
It's a big bummer. Because I like Shelley Duvall a lot.
Yeah, and I'm upset about it. I know she has some mental disorders and stuff like that. And I don't know what that has to do with this movie, or if anything from this movie did that to her. Just in general, I know she was treated just inhumanely during this movie. Like,
great performance.
Yeah, I think it's a
about that
great
a lot.
performance, but also I think it's a great performance because that was actually Stanley Kubrick was actually doing that to her.
Yeah.
So it sucks because I want to give her flowers. I want to be like, great job, you're amazing in this movie, but also at the same time I feel weird because at the same time I might be like, oh, you might just be being driven insane.
Yeah.
In front of a camera. Like, I was reading just very quickly, like, she would go home after takes and her hands would be raw and, like, cut up and stuff like that from holding that bat so long and all the takes it made her do. And she'd be crying for so long that she'd be dehydrated when she went home and stuff like that. And apparently, like, Stanley Kubrick and Jack Nicholson just didn't really talk. He was just like, yeah, just do your thing, Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Also, her performance, like I said, that stuff, very sad. But just talking about what I see on screen, the whole time I kept thinking, a perfect fit.
Both of them, yeah.
I couldn't see anybody else playing that role because she has this perfect thing where, like, I just, like, sympathize with her so much.
Yeah.
She doesn't deserve any of that shit before they even get to the hotel.
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson is a dick to her. Horrible husband. Mr. Jack Torrance. She doesn't deserve that, man.
Yeah.
She's so nice.
I love all the scenes with her and Danny.
Yeah, she's
Like
a sweetheart.
Danny-
She seems like a great mother. She seems like a great woman. Perfect, good, great heart, you know?
Yeah,
Very honest and open with everybody.
I absolutely love that scene at the beginning of her and Danny at the table.
Yeah.
I don't think Danny's the best child actor I've ever seen.
I think he fits well, though.
But he fits pretty well. But I love when they're at the table talking. They're saying so-and-so, and then he goes, does the thing with his finger, Tony, and he goes, I don't want to go, or whatever. And she just goes, well, why not, Tony? Like, she's not like, oh, God, my son's crazy, and that's not part of the movie. She's just like, okay, yeah, this is part of our lives. And, this is my son, and I love him, and I'll play along with his imaginary friend. It's great. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think she knocks it out of the park, and I think his, like, General the Kid, like, that just, like, dejected, kind of, like, despondent thing, like, works very well.
I love whenever they cut to him and he's just sitting somewhere with his eyes as open as eyes can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very startling to look at.
Why don't you want to go, Tony? It just don't. It's good
great.
Stuff. It's great stuff. I love the Tony stuff.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
I love when he's talking to the doctor at the beginning. She's like, does Tony ever tell you to do anything? And everybody just goes, I don't want to talk about Tony anymore.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a good scene. Very unsettling.
Yeah.
And on the topic of unsettling, I'm sure we're going to harp on it a million times because this movie is very unsettling. Everything that's unsettling about this stuff is unsettling in, like, the least cheesy way possible.
Yeah.
Perhaps the most cheesy thing is the two twin little girls, but just because at this point, like, that's just kind of been done to death. But I mean, at this point, like, just so many people have done the creepy little girl thing, the creepy little girl thing, the creepy little girl thing.
It was my biggest thing when I saw this movie at first. It was one of those, it was like Back to the Future where I didn't want to watch it because I had seen it through osmosis, just through culture.
Yeah.
Like, I get what that movie is. I don't really need to see it, and I don't really want to see it. And watching this, it is nothing like I thought it would be. Like, I don't remember what it is, but I have a very clear memory of another movie where the characters are at a drive-in movie theater and they're watching The Shining.
Okay.
And people are in their seats watching it, like, jumping and going, like, they're scared and stuff like that. And, like, I remember my mom saying something along the lines of this movie, and it's just not. None of this movie is, in a way, scary. It's just spooky.
Very
It's
spooky,
just
very unsettling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I love the way that the movie like ramps up because it's like sprinkled throughout the beginning for sure, like the Tony stuff. You know what I mean? But then there's just that point where like almost like something like and this is more a compliment to the Conjuring rather than like me, you know, kind of like comparing the two. Obviously, The Shining does it way better, but like in The Conjuring, there's like a clear point where like from now on, shit has hit the fan. It's just going crazy. And The Shining has that too. It's the point where Jack Torrance has that nightmare sitting on the table, and then Wendy's trying to comfort him. I think your name's Wendy, right? Yeah. Anyways, Wendy's trying to comfort him, and he's like, "Oh my God, Wendy, it was horrible. I had a dream that I killed you and Dandy, but I didn't just kill you. I chopped you up into little bits." You know, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And then Danny comes into frame as, you know, Wendy's trying to comfort him. And Danny's, clearly you can see from behind that his shirt's like kind of ripped or whatever. And she runs over to him and she's like, "Oh my God, what happened?" And he's like comatose, won't talk. And then she immediately assumes that Jack did it, yada, yada, yada. And then just from there, like, you know, then he goes up into the bar. And then Wendy comes back in and she's like, "There's a woman in there." And then he goes in there and that happens. And yeah, it's just kind of balls to the wall from that point on. You know what I mean?
I absolutely love. Yeah, you're correct. It is that one point, and then it goes balls to the wall. But I love how but how slowly it ramps up, and then it gets to that point. I love the title cards when time passes, or they're telling you what's like when something's happening. I think it starts with the interview, and then it goes to like closing day, and then it's like 1 month later. And then it's like Tuesday. Then it's Thursday. Then it's Saturday. But then it's Sunday, and then it's Monday. I think there's less that I'm saying, but it goes like from day to day, and then it goes noon, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Like it's just getting faster and faster. Things are getting crazier and crazier. Yeah. It's great. I love it.
Yeah. This movie is also like, I would almost compare it to something like The Witch, or like the Blair Witch Project, where like part of it that's so unsettling, or for like a better term, or ease of use, like scary, is just the isolation.
Yeah.
And like the whole thing builds that sense of isolation. You start off with those like the score, phenomenal, out of this world. Oh, so good. You start with, you know, just the blom, 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 as it's just slowly panning over like just vast scapes.
Yeah.
Of just nothingness for a long time. And
it's so impressive to watch because there's no. You know, it's 1980. They ain't no drones.
Yeah.
You know, that's a big-ass helicopter with a camera strapped to the bottom of it. Love it.
That just goes on for a while. Going down the road, you get introduced to the hotel, and there's a lot of people there for sure. But then you cut back to Danny and Wendy, and they are alone.
Yeah.
In their small little house. They're just kind of watching TV. A woman comes after Danny, like, collapses or whatever. But other than that, you know, Wendy interacts with that character, and then what else? Scatman Crothers? Other than Jack?
The manager of the hotel, I guess.
Oh, yeah, when they come in on the first day. Yeah. And yeah, from that point on, once they get to the hotel, also just nobody else there. You know what I mean? It's like, so much of this movie is just them. And I feel like through all those like shots, like even the shots of the hotel in the beginning, when they're first coming there, and it's just the hotel there, and you also get a pretty wide shot where you can just see the mountains and stuff like that. And they do a really great job of just imprinting on you, like just this like, or even just with little dialogue, like Scatman saying so, and Wendy saying so, and Jack saying so. I think at one point, like, oh yeah, it was about a 5-hour drive. You know what I mean? Like, damn, like how far are they away from? You know what I mean? Like when at the end when Scatman Crothers gets the snowcat or whatever to go up there or whatever. I don't know if he actually says how long it's going to take him to get up there in the snowcat. I think he tells the mechanic how long it's going to take him to get to the mechanic.
I think it's 5 hours from the airport. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know if he specifies how long it's going to take him to get like up there with the snowcat. But anyways, it leaves you feeling like they're quite far away from anybody else.
Can't lie though, I'd love to do it.
Yeah, well, because there is also you know, like that Dawn of the Dead aspect of it, where it's like, you know, in that movie it's like we're holed up again, you know, to fend off the zombie horde in a mall, but then the other part is like, I'm fucking like in a mall, like locked up in a mall. I can go to the arcade, I can wear fur coats, I can get hammered, you know.
When I see little Danny riding his big wheel around this hotel, I'm like, God, I want to do that so bad. Even when I see Jack Torrance go into the kitchen, he's losing his mind, but he's knocking over all the pans and stuff like that. I'm like, man, I could just be knocking over pans. No one can stop me.
Yeah. I gotta clean it up later, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, even, him setting up his writing room in, like, that big main hall thing.
Yeah, and he's in there just throwing the ball against the wall, and it's crazy loud. Just, that's great. I wouldn't do it alone. We talked about this last night. If I had some company, like a person or two, I'd definitely go up there and do that.
Yeah, because just to talk about that for a quick moment, that is unsettling. I know for a fact that a lot of people are afraid of that idea that someone could be living in your own home without you knowing it. Mm-hmm. Once you live in something that size, like, it would be so unsettling for me. I'd get over it for the most part. Sometimes it would creep into my mind, but, like, just how big the hotel is, there's nobody else in the hotel. But there could be someone else in there, and you wouldn't know.
Yeah, like, it's legitimately very scary.
Yeah.
Like, you get that insane scene of him at the bar.
Yeah.
Talking to the bartender, and then she runs in and goes, there's somebody else in the hotel.
Yeah. So and it reminds me of, like, what you're talking about with, like, the Blair Witch Project, where you're talking about how, like, if this were me and my friends in the woods, I'd be losing my mind kind of a thing. Like, in that moment, if I was tasked with caring for the hotel and my wife comes in frantic and says there's someone else in the hotel with that much, like, conviction, my pants are full of shit.
Oh, yeah.
I love also, we're going to talk about this a million times, but Jack Nicholson's delivery, she's like, oh my God, Danny, there was a man in the room and she was the one that did that, Danny, and you got to go in there and look. And he's just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's so good. Like, it's maybe my favorite. No, it's not. But it's one of my favorite parts of the movie. It's just Jack Nicholson's delivery on so many things.
Yeah. Like, for example, one that I know you really liked is she wakes him up in the morning or whatever. She made him breakfast. And he's like, oh, God, what time is it? And she's like, oh, it's like 11:30. He's like, oh, man, She's like, yeah, we're having, like, late nights. And, again, that's just a nice little moment. Serves no real purpose other than, like, I don't know, you're just, I mean, if you were for 5 months with your wife and kid, keep an eye on the hotel, you could go to bed whenever you wanted to. Yeah. And, of course, they're starting to stay up a little late or whatever, and they're sleeping in and shit like that. She's like, yeah, I brought breakfast up, and then she's like, any ideas, honey, or whatever? And he's like, oh, no good ones or whatever. And she's like, well, that's all right. You just got to get back in the habit of writing it every day. That's all it is. And he goes, that's all it is. And, like, there's just, like, a way that Jack Nicholson has of, like, delivering words that, like, even though he's not specifically saying something mean, it feels like a put down. I know he means it to be.
Yeah.
And specifically, like, in that situation. But almost anything he says sounds condescending.
It's, like, it's so for the most part not. And then there's just that little twinge of it underneath it, which makes it feel like he is trying with all of his might to not explode at her or anyone he's talking to. Yeah. And he's trying so hard, but he can only push it so far. So there's just that little tail on the end of the sentence. Yeah. It's so good.
It reminds me of something I heard someone say about Gene Wilder and Young Frankenstein, where they were like exactly what you're saying, like, where it says his character always seems like he's just 1 inch away from going over the edge and, like, just losing his shit. And Jack Nicholson has that times 10. Like, there's every interaction, it seems like I'm just intimidated. Like, I wouldn't be able to have a conversation with them. I feel like, because the whole time I'd be like, are you about to be mean to me? Are you about to be really mean to me?
You're already being mean to me, but you're about to be really mean.
Because even from the jump, like, just every time he's like, it's just, go ahead.
I do love the scene when Danny comes to get him. And he's supposed to be asleep. Danny walks in the room. He's just sitting upright in bed, and he looks at him. And he's like, "Come here." He sits him down on his chest, and he hugs him, and he, like, puts his head against his head and stuff like that. And it's a very scary scene, very, very creepy. And he's just clearly not all there anymore. And I can't exactly remember what the conversation is either. I think Danny's like, do you like being at the hotel? And he's like, yeah, of course I do, and stuff like that. But he's just saying some weird shit, and he's just being weird. But there's just this weird underlying current of him being a good dad deep, deep, deep inside there somewhere, where, like, whatever is happening to him in this hotel, just the small part of that normal man who is a monster and a piece of shit.
Yeah.
but who does love his son, is just kind of peeking through.
Yeah.
Every now and then in that
Which plays
conversation.
in that sympathy thing, right?
Yeah.
Like the bar scene where he hallucinates that he's talking to Lloyd or whatever. Great scene the whole time. He's like, hey, Jeevesy, what do they call you around here? How's my credit around here? All that kind of stuff. And then he goes into that long thing about like how he's like, my bitch of a wife thinks I hurt or whatever. I would never hear, harm a head on his little fucking head and all that kind of shit. Yeah. And he just sells it so perfectly. He's like, I would do anything for that little fucker. Any fucking thing, and you believe it. You legitimately, you're like,
you believe
buy
it. I buy it, but I also buy like, oh yeah, this is definitely what a dad who
He would be, yes, exactly.
hurt his son while hammered would say.
Which plays exactly into like what I'm talking about. Like it's just like we said it last night, but yeah, Jack Nicholson just is like kind of almost like the king of subtext. Sure, it may be the same subtext all the time.
Yeah.
But everything is like a double. You're like, yeah, but also you seem too pissed about it. What is going on? Like,
yeah, he's
saying a lot of anger here.
And another thing is happening underneath it. It's great.
The one thing I do want to say about this movie, I feel like I always see people talk about it, and they talk about how like, hey, it's like a mess, and there's like 3 different things going on, but like that's part of it is like, it's kind of confusing. And I get what they mean, and I don't mean to totally contradict it, but also, especially this watch, I kind of felt like I was like, no, this is pretty actually like I feel kind of cohesive. Like it, there's like a dream logic to it, which excuses everything or whatever. But like, I don't know, just like. Because people always point out I could be wrong here. I feel like sometimes people say like that there's some kind of inclination that like the land itself is like an Indian burial ground or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember that ever coming up in the movie specifically.
No, it's like.
Is it one of those like subtext things that you're supposed to like look for context clues for?
Yes, there's like a lot of like
Native American imagery and stuff.
Yes, and like cans of like chewing tobacco with like a Native American on the side of it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's a documentary I remember seeing. I saw it before I saw The Shining. I watched it when I was like 13 or something like that. Called Room 237. There's a bunch of people talking about like what The Shining could mean.
Yeah.
It's a piece of shit. I don't recommend watching it. But it was just full of stuff like that. And like, oh, if you pause it here, when the twins first show up, you can see there's a poster in the background behind them of a man climbing a summit. But if you look at it this way, that's a minotaur. And the minotaur, usually, it's like, no. A
little too far.
It's a dude standing on some skis.
But yeah, I know people are always like, is it ghosts or is he going insane? And it's like almost one of those things where it's like they all kind of blend into each other. Like,
yeah.
And nothing is the one thing kind of a thing. You can't really tell between any of them. But they all blend together like seamlessly in like this like fever dreamy way where like you feel like you're going down the rabbit hole too. Like you're going insane kind of. Yeah, you've got the Danny and his ability to shine, and Scatman Crothers' ability to shine, and he gives that great expositional bit. Yeah, it's so great. I love that he calls him Doc. Yeah. That scene is phenomenal. Scatman Crothers does an amazing job in this film. Like he's like, "How about we get you some ice cream, Doc? Wouldn't you like that, or whatever?" And then Shelley's like, "Well, why do you call him the Doc? We call him Doc. How would you even know that?" And he was like, nah, I must have heard you guys say it. And she's like, nah, I don't think we've said it since we've been around. He's like, well, anyways. And they go on or whatever.
Yeah.
And then when they're sitting down, they have that great conversation where he's talking about the Shining thing. And Danny's like, I don't want to talk about that. And he's like, well, why wouldn't you want to talk about it? And it's a great question. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would say that's one of the things that's like the most like, I'm just going to flat out say it. This thing reminds me, this is probably the closest bit of media to the kind of like surreal dream logic-y thing that I get from like Twin Peaks and love the most.
Yep.
It's just like, okay, so he shines, right? And so does Scatman Crothers. So this is logically something that's just accepted in the world that this happens inside of the world of this book. But what the fuck is Tony? Because even Scatman Crothers is like, who's Tony?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like
what the fuck is Tony?
It's something I love so much about this movie that gets me, is they're having that conversation, and it's great, like you're saying with The Shining and stuff like that. And he's telling him about the hotel. He's like, some things leave like
this is the part I was leading up to. Yeah, the residue thing,
and like
which is the bit of ghost that I can buy into in real life. Is just that thing where like I don't know, I just feel like this is ridiculous and obviously probably for the most part untrue. But just that thing where like people are always like, oh, some bad shit happened here. And that's kind of like why you can feel the bad vibes in a place, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, all I'm saying is like, this is me also putting in the context of like, I feel like everything spooky in this movie just ends up landing like right smack dab in the middle of things that I'm like, none of this is jumping the shark. All of this seems like genuinely spooky.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's because exactly what you're saying. It leaves a residue, whatever, and those who can shine can see it.
Yeah.
I was like, cool, I get this. This is
Tracks.
spooky. It's tracks. I get it. I like it.
Tony?
What is Tony? Or, okay.
Like, even him saying, before you say, oh, okay, when he's like, when she's like, oh, who's Tony? The woman in the beginning, and he's like, oh, it's a little boy that hides in my mouth. And she's like, look, if I love that she says, because it's like almost dream logically. I know she would, but like also, why would she? She was like, if you open your mouth right now, could I see him? It's a weird thing to say. It is.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, because he goes down and hides in my stomach. And I'm like,
what does that mean?
Danny, what is this?
But like it tracks even to, okay, I get it. He's being corrupted by the spooky spirits of the hotel.
Sure.
And he's in this bar, and there's a bunch of ghosts. Okay. And he's hanging out with all the ghosts. I get it. It tracks. One of the ghosts is the guy that was working here before that killed his family. And he goes, you were the caretaker, right?
Yeah.
And then the caretaker goes, no, you are. You always have been.
Yeah.
You've always been here.
And I've always been the servant or whatever.
What does that mean?
Yeah. But on that same topic, like, to go back to what we were talking about in the very beginning, just the spook from the beginning, like, I just got chills thinking about it. Just like, again, like, that seed is planted with, like, Danny being like, or Tony rather being like, you know, like him being like, why don't you want to go to the hotel? And Tony just being like, I just don't.
Yeah.
And like, excuse me. Then it makes me think, well, what is Tony if Tony doesn't want him to go to the hotel?
Yeah, Tony's got to be some. I don't want to put too fine of a point on it, but Tony's a spooky ghost.
Yeah.
And Danny can see ghosts, and it's a spooky ghost that hangs out with him, that just happens to know about these other spooky ghosts there. Maybe I don't know.
Like, again, another scene that gives me chills is like when he's laying there talking to Tony, and Tony's like, your dad's about to call and tell your mom that he got the job. And then it hard cuts to Wendy picking up the phone and be like, hey, babe. And he's like, honey, I don't think I'm going to be back until about 9 or 10. And she's like, well, it sounds like you got the job then. He's like, yeah, just got to finish up some paperwork and stuff like that, you know. But, yeah, I got the job or whatever.
Yeah, and Scatman Crothers tells him, or Dick Halloran, tells him that if you shine, you can sometimes see the future. And he does. You see the elevator all the time.
Yeah,
you
blood.
see red rum all the time. But then also Tony is telling him the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he specifically says, he's like, I don't know, sometimes Tony shows me things, but then I can't remember most of them. You know, great. So anyways, long story short, they load up in the car, head on up there. Just love the visual of that yellow car going up the winding roads and stuff like that. Also, the beginning of the Evil Dead, or, you know.
Yeah.
There you go. But you get one of my favorite scenes, which is when they just talk about the Donner Party for no reason. But it's great. It's a nice little flavor scene. You see them have, like, that may be the only interaction they have as a family, not at the hotel. In fact, I think it is. Where Shelley Duvall says, isn't this where the Donner Party happened or whatever? And Jack's like, no, I think that was farther west in the Sierras. And then Danny goes, what's the Donner Party? And he goes, they were a party of people back in covered wagon days. And they got snowbound and they had to resort to cannibalism. And I hear what happens next or whatever, but Danny goes, you mean they ate each other up? And Shelley says something or whatever about like, oh, Danny or whatever. And he's like, don't worry, Mom, I saw it on TV or whatever. And then, again, it's another example of Jack Nicholson doing that thing where, like, there's just so much, like, subtext to it. He's, like, chuckling a little bit with, like, a lighthearted nature of, like, oh, that's cute that my kid just said that, but also a little bit of, like, fuck, that motherfucker saw it on TV. And, like, oh, he just thinks that's okay. Or he's just like, yep, you hear that? He saw it on the television. It was a great scene.
Love it.
I love it.
I also love... There's a little thing in that shot. I mean, in that scene when they're driving up. They're driving the same car that I think is described in Stephen King's book, but it's yellow instead of, in the book, it's red. And on the way up there, they pass the same car, but red, and it's broken down on the side of the road. So it's a little Stanley Kubrick thing, being like, hey, fuck you. This ain't your dad's The Shining.
So anyways, they get set up at the hotel. I forgot to mention the Scatman Crothers conversation that Danny goes just out of nowhere. He's just like, what's going on in room 237?
Yeah,
and
I
he's
love
like,
that.
and I love that, like, Scatman Crothers, so obviously lying to a child. He's like, nothing. Ain't nothing going on in 237, and there's no reason for you to go there. Spooky.
And I
Sorry.
do love that they keep it
Spooky.
locked too. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love when the first time that he goes up that like.
Well, it's a hotel. I think all the doors just lock behind you. But anyway.
Sure, but I do love that he tries it and it's locked the first time, because then later when he goes by and it's just fucking open again, chills.
There's a key in the door. Yeah.
Yeah, like my eyes were watering just saying that, because that's the other thing. Like I'm sure we talked about this before, but like most of the scary in a movie doesn't really hit you until you're thinking about it later.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, like even just like, okay, put myself in those shoes. I'm walking around the hotel, right? For some reason, I don't shine. But like I got a weird vibe for room 237. I have never been there, but for some reason I was like, why don't I try to open this? This feels weird. I open it, it's locked. Can't get in. Who knows how long later, a couple weeks later, I go by and the fucking door's open with a key in it.
Yeah, that's the thing. If
I would shit my fucking pants.
you walk by that door, it's open, you're like, okay, it's an old hotel. Maybe there was a gust of wind and these locks ain't too strong.
Yeah.
They just kind of blew open.
But there's a fucking
key in the door. It's so good.
So spooky. So anyways, yeah, as you said, Danny's fucking around on his little trike. Maybe he sees the twins at some point. I can't remember exactly when that happens, but he sees them little twins.
Love the sound of the tricycle.
Yeah.
Just that
The
those big rug,
and then it hits
plastic
the rugs.
wheels.
Yeah,
and it hits
yeah.
the rugs and it stops and it goes and it stops and it goes.
Because
Because it's somehow just like it's what I love about the music.
it's almost like the soundtrack. Yeah, it's droning.
it's almost like a drone.
Yeah.
The music is, but then it's not. And I just love. I'm sorry if I'm going off track to something you were gonna say, but I love the music in this movie so much. Like it starts before it's supposed to a lot of the times. Like very big intense music will be playing while people are walking down a hallway.
Yeah.
And then they'll walk into the spooky situation and the music's already going.
Yeah.
So you're nervous before you get there, almost like, oh, I can feel something's wrong here, or feel something's wrong in this hotel. And it gets expressed kind of with the music, or even like, I brought it up to you while we were watching it. There's that scene where he's sitting at the typewriter and the shots from behind him, and it's just a big shot of that room. And Wendy is walking from the other side of the room toward us and Jack. And just the music is just going fucking buck wild. And he's just smashing away on the typewriter, and the shot doesn't change at all. It's just on the surface a shot of her walking across the room towards him. And then when she gets to him, he rips the paper out of the typewriter, and like a big violin sting happens. And it's like, on first watch, it's like, I don't know what that was about, but it was unsettling. And then, as you watch the rest of the movie, he's sitting there just typing crazy person shit. And so when he rips it out and there's that big violin sting, it's him, like, I guess, kind of snapping out of it.
Yeah. You can make the case for the whole soundtrack sounding this way, but I'm talking especially about the second half. There's like a lot of like stringy stuff and whatnot, and just there's a general like I feel like the sound design or the soundscape that like the soundtrack portrays. It gives me it reminds me a lot of like some of the silent movie scorings that I've heard before. That's also very spooky. I know that there's also the side by side comparison to some like black and white silent film where the chopping of the door. And the head coming through the chop of the door also happens. That's just an observation. I have nothing deeper to say about that. But, back to the general synopsis thing to help me keep a through line of what we have and have not talked about. Danny's cruising around. Jack's quote-unquote getting to work. You see Shelley Duvall doing all the work to maintain.
Yes.
Which is something that you mentioned the other day that, like, I had never really paid attention too much. But, yeah, fucking shitty. What a selfish guy. Like all he wants is this 5 months so he can work on this book. And he makes such a big deal about like my responsibilities and I've signed this and we'll talk about that, a little more later, whatever. But fuck him. No, he doesn't want any of that. He doesn't actually want to take care of this fucking hotel. He just wants that 5 months.
Yeah.
He's not thinking about like what any of that entails. He's just thinking for 5 months I can get paid to write a novel,
Also, I was thinking about it while watching it this time. When he's talking to the manager at the beginning of the movie, the manager tells him the caretaker before you killed his family, or not before him, but just one of our old caretakers killed his whole family. Jack Torrance doesn't look super surprised.
Yeah.
And it could just be like a weird, this is just how he's playing the scene kind of thing.
Right.
But then later when he's talking to that ghost, he goes, I've seen you before.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, I saw you. You were in the paper. I saw it. You and your blah, 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 and you killed everybody. Do you think maybe he knew about that before coming here?
There's a chance.
Yeah, maybe.
Definitely a chance.
Maybe there's some, or maybe not. I don't know. I just thought it was strange because I was like, when he said it this time around watching it, when he's like, I've seen you before, I was like, did he? And then I was thinking about that scene. I'm like, yeah, he doesn't seem super surprised when he's telling him that.
Have I ever talked to you on the podcast specifically about me staying at the Larium Manor in the UP?
No.
I don't know if I've talked about that. Long story short, I'm really not going to go into it too much, but I took a little vacation with my partner a couple like Memorial Days ago. And it was right after the pandemic, and we went and stayed at the beautiful Larium Manor in Larium, Michigan, in the Upper Peninsula. Would definitely recommend. It's gorgeous. It was some sort of like fucking mining like baron who just the family made a dickload of money before fucking off and leaving the manor. Abandoned for a while, and then it became like a funeral parlor, I guess. And then it was abandoned for a while, and a woman and her husband bought it and turned it into like a bed and breakfast in like the 80s or 90s or something like that. I could be totally wrong about exactly when that happened, but that's the general history of the place. Went there, had a great time, other than it was just kind of weird the whole time. Like I said, it was right after the pandemic, so we were like a group of... To talk about the hotel I think has like 40 rooms or something like that. Like I said, just used to be an old mansion. And we were like one of like 3 families of guests staying in that whole hotel. You know what I mean? And the mining family that built the thing built it in like 1908 and shit like that. So it's just, very much so like The Shining, just like, early 20th century, just luxury, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, first season that it was open after the pandemic. Whole town's a ghost town just for a multitude of reasons. One of them being that no economy for a myriad reasons. Since mining left the town, just no work, and like I said, it was after the pandemic, not a lot of people around. Anyways, once we got home, I found out through fucking the craziest happenstance. Just ended up meeting a stranger, talking about it a little bit, and then them being like, "Oh shit, where?" And I was like, "Oh, Larry," or whatever. And they were like, "Oh my god, like 2 years I stayed at that hotel. Yeah, fucking crazy, haunted, right?" And I was like, yeah, I assumed probably because it used to be like a funeral parlor." And they were like, "No, because of the murders that happened there." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "You didn't know that? Like it's like really famous for that." And like I googled it, and yeah, I guess there was a man who ran the funeral parlor named Maynard, and he took care of what the newspaper's words, his invalid wife. Apparently she was an alcoholic to the point of being deemed invalid, and his grandson, who had been abandoned by his the Maynard's daughter. Their family just went off to like Africa or something like that and abandoned the boy. The boy had been abandoned after he survived some kind of fire, and he was just burned all over his body. And Maynard frequently had to drive all the way from Larium. This is like a 7-hour drive down to Ann Arbor to get very specific like skin treatments for him and shit like that. Had to take care of the parlor by himself because his wife is not able to work or whatever. Then found out that he was terminally ill, and just kind of went crazy and was like, "I'm going to take out my wife and kid on my way out because they're not going to be able to survive in society without me." So just killed himself, killed his wife, and killed his kid in the fucking house.
So you stayed at a Shining.
And then guess what? Guess where the funeral for all of them happened? In the house. It's a funeral parlor.
Fuck.
Yeah. Now, this is the point where I go off the rails. I don't really think this is that scary. I wasn't scared in the time. I'm just relaying information. The last night that I was in town, the way that the room was set up was that there was like a door to the hallway, both in my room and in the bathroom. On my side of the room, there was also a door into the bathroom where I could see the door to the hallway as well. And both of those doors had like old principal office, kind of like stained, not stained, but like glass where you can't really see
like
through
a
it.
frosted glass kind.
Yeah, frosted almost, but still clear, just wavy. Ooh, I don't know what the fuck that's called. But anyways, so to save on money every night, the owner, the innkeeper, she'd come around and like turn off all the hall lights. Mm-hmm. For some reason, the last night that I was in town, she didn't. And I woke up probably, I know this sounds cliche, but like 3 or 4 in the morning. I was just laying there, I couldn't sleep. And I noticed that the lights were still on in the hall or whatever. And in the bathroom window specifically, over the course of maybe like 5 minutes, it looked like something walked past it. And then like a little while later, it looked like something else walked past it. And then a little while later, it looked like something else walked past it. You know what I mean? Just over the course of like 5 minutes. I know nobody was up because I couldn't hear anybody walking around. And like I didn't actually see the figure of a body. It just like got dimmer for a second. And I was like, what? Like I said, off the rails. 3 dead bodies. That happened 3 times. Coincidence. But anyways.
All I remember from that story, because I remember you going up there and you telling me about it, I vaguely remember it being haunted.
Yeah.
But all I remember is, because I think about it like once a month from the story.
Yeah.
Is you telling me about that place and about the frosted glass and being able to see in the bathroom, and you said, quote, yeah, and so you can just see my pink blobby body doing naked poopies.
So anyways, the show...
So anyway, Jack's naked taking a big blobby poop or whatever. I can't remember the last thing we were saying about this.
No, that's okay. Let's just talk about some of the big spookies. One of the big spooky is, the bar scene, which is just fantastic. Jack Nicholson acts the hell out of that, where he's sitting at the bar drinking.
Good.
And like we said a second ago, Wendy comes in just distraught. Shelley Duvall kills it. Jack kills it with that line. Then he goes to look for the woman. And that scene is so great to me. It's like slow and dreamy, and the woman gets out of the bathtub, and she's beautiful or whatever, and Jack's obviously into that, and they start making out and stuff like that. And then it's the slow reveal is that she's this old rotting woman, and then you get those just creepy surreal scenes where like it keeps cutting back to like her slowly rising her body out of the water, and then her slowly like walking towards Jack, just kind of laughing and stuff. And yeah, like I said, it's like Twin Peaks. It's like the Evil Dead. It's like out of time. It's just something that's like, ugh.
Also, I love that room looks insane compared to theirs.
Yeah.
Like just how it's decorated and how everything's set up. It looks absolutely nothing like their room.
Yeah, they're definitely staying in like what looks like almost like servants' quarters compared to like a nice like luxury room that is $237, which is an interesting choice when you have your pick of the, or maybe it was mandated what room they stayed in, but also you don't have to listen to that. I mean. Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, there's an interesting observation.
Yeah. We also had a big conversation about full frontal nudity.
Yeah.
Don't have to have it here. Just bringing it up.
No. Was there something you wanted to bring up, though?
Yes, I think the first spooky that happens in this movie that gets me every time I watch it. She says, Wendy says something to Jack about, like, oh, we should go for a walk or whatever. And he's like, it's one of the many scenes where he's like, can't you see I have to fucking work?
Yeah, he basically says, I should probably get some work done first.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not even mean about it. I don't remember. But it cuts to Wendy and Danny outside just playing in the snow, running around. And then it's a hard cut to Jack just standing there. And it's the classic Kubrick stare or whatever. But it's so jarring. And it just cuts to him real quick, just standing there with that look on his face. And, like, you don't see any establishing anything. You can just see a light against his face that is suggestive of a window, so that he's watching them, and it's just this look on his face, and it just zooms in on him, and then it cuts away. It startles me every time I see it. Like it doesn't like. Yeah. It's the only, I guess, like kind of jump scare in this movie that happens, and every time it happens, I'm like, ah! And then it's just spooky because it just stuck on him for a while, and then it goes away. It's the first scary.
One of the big ramping ups of like him like losing his edge and maybe the insanity thing and stuff like that is the scene we were talking about just a moment ago where he's writing and pulls the thing out of the whatever. Then he gives that crazy monologue where he's like, don't you see that every time you come in here, you break my train of thought, and it takes fucking time to get back to where I was. So anytime I'm in here and you hear me typing or whatever the fuck it is that you hear me doing, you know, whatever, yada, yada, don't come in here kind of a thing. And then he has that line where it's just like so fucking smug where he's like, so get the fuck out of here. Yeah. And it's like, God damn, Jack, that's not just like, yep, that's all it is. Or, you know, don't you know, you saw it on TV. Like, that's like unhinged behavior. That's so uncalled for.
But it also seems so real. Like, it doesn't even feel that unhinged for him. Yeah. Like, you almost get the sense that, like, they've had this conversation before, and it's just kind of how he regularly talks to her.
Which is insane, because all she does is come in and, like, she's just like, hey, you know, I could bring some sandwiches later. Yeah. How's it going? You know, like, it's not at all like, hey, I need you to do some shit. And he's like, dude, I'm trying to fucking work. You know? Like, it's so uncalled for. Yeah, she basically just comes in and goes, would you like a sandwich? She goes in and she's like, hello, I would like to support you.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just it feels like a conversation they've had before, but now he's on the up and up because he's not drinking anymore and this and that. But yeah,
and like I said, so many things play into each other so fucking well. Like even Danny coming downstairs bruised and shit like that. It's just like a 10 out of 10 or a home run where it's just like, fuck, something spooky's going on, but because of the way that these characters are, you know, written or whatever, of course she thinks Jack did it. Absolutely, they're alone in this fucking hotel. And he has a history of hurting him. You know what I mean? Perfect. That's great. You know?
Yeah. I love. I was gonna move away. Go on.
And then that drives him to go upstairs and just be like, fuck, I would do anything for a drink right now. And then he has that great hallucination. As far as he's concerned, that's perfect. And it's tarnished because Wendy comes in and he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And you get the sense that half of that frustration is he's like, you just woke me up in the middle of the best dream I've had in the last 4 months. Like, what the fuck, you know? And then again, it's set up again for him to have a great time. Holy shit, I'm making out with this beautiful fucking woman. And then suddenly she's a gross monster. And it's an unintentional bit of humor as far as I'm concerned. They definitely don't play it up for laughs, but it's so funny to me or whatever. When he comes back to the room and Wendy's like, what's happened? Who was in there or whatever? He's like, no, nothing happened.
Yeah. I do love the conversation with the bartender. Sorry to like jump back or around or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just not something. It feels like it's not something I see a lot in movies or have even really experienced. But it seems to make perfect sense, that conversation with the bartender.
Right.
When people talk about good bartenders and stuff like that, I assume this is probably what makes a good bartender. Is him. Jack is basically having a conversation with himself.
Yeah, and also all he's doing is telling Jack what he wants to hear.
Like, not even that.
Yeah.
Like, he's just standing there for most of it, and every now and then he'll go, women. Can't live with him, can't live without him.
Yeah.
And he's like, you bet, man. Wise words, Lloyd, wise words.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it really bummed me out to think about that. Like, oh yeah, no, this is just what bartenders do. This is just... Yeah, this is just it. There's a lot of guys like this just doing this all day.
I think it also speaks to one of the things I like about this movie, just the kind of like, you know, a lot of restraint, I feel like. I don't have a great example, but I'm just thinking about like the scene where like the maid in The Conjuring is like, look what she made me do. Like, it's so over the top, but the bartender plays it very subdued. He's just like, what will it be today, Jack?
Yeah.
Like, he's kind of weird and creepy just because he talks kind of slow, but I don't think they're hamming it up. I think it's a very, like, they play it just like, the spook comes from just it being surreal and uncanny. Like, it seems like a scene that would be happening if he weren't a ghost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so many of the interactions just kind of play like that.
And I love how just, like, in those scenes where he's talking to ghosts, just how a little... amped up Jack Nicholson is. Like, he's, I don't know, for a lack of a better term, just chewing up the scenery.
Yeah.
But all he's really interacting with is the bar and his wallet in that class, where he's just like, ba ba ba. I'm doing a lot of pantomiming for those who are listening. He's like, da da da. He's pulling out his wallet. He's like, da da da. And when he puts the money back in his wallet, he's like, well, I'd like to know who's paying for my drinks. Yeah, it's great.
Well, that's something I like about Jack Nicholson's performance in general, is that he does get to do whatever the fuck he wants, but again, it's just also so fucking tasteful because Jack Nicholson's a master. But even when, like, he's on the staircase with Wendy and the bat, right? And he's like, give me the bat. Give me the bat, Wendy. And he just keeps, like, jutting his arms out at her. Yeah. And then he also just keeps sticking his tongue out at random intervals and just for no reason sticking his tongue out at her. And just watching him do all of those things throughout the whole film, it's just out of this world for some reason. I'm just like, oh, God, what a fucking weird guy. This is so, like, weird. And again, like, dream logic. Like, like, you know what I mean? I feel like, again, it almost makes sense if you were like, yeah, I had the weirdest dream last night that, like, I was afraid of you for some reason, and I was on the stairs, and you kept walking towards me, you kept reaching your arms out at me or whatever, but you weren't trying to grab me, and you weren't trying to grab the bat. You just kept doing it, and it was really scary.
And it's got also another just great, like, weird delivered line from him that I love. And, like, it's the whole scene is so... fucked. Like, it takes so long and it's so tense, and he's following her for so long and she's backing up, and God, I love just everything about her, like, composure and, like, just the way she's standing and the way she's holding the bat. It's like wrong. Like, she's holding it in the middle and, like, it's such a weird, like, clearly this makes her feel more safe, but just looking at her, just little Wendy with that bat, that's not doing anything for her.
It almost gives you the feeling of, like, when you're in a dream and you're like, your punches don't...
Exactly. Yeah. But then it works. She does hit him, but he falls down the stairs.
Yeah, it does work.
But just her even, like, kind of hunched over, like, swinging at him with the bat up the stairs and stuff like that. It's great. I love it.
And like you said a second ago, it almost makes sense that she doesn't, like, immediately, like, totally flee or, like, flip shit and stuff like that. Again, that almost seems like an interaction they could have had any time.
Yeah.
Because of who Jack Nicholson is, you know what I mean?
But I love when back to weird lines or weird delivery from Jack Nicholson. I love when she's backing up and she's like, I want to go back to my room. I just need to think about some stuff. And he's like, you've been thinking your whole fucking life. What are a few more minutes gonna do to you?
I know. I love when he's like, what are a few more minutes gonna do for you now? Like, just the way.
And she's backing up and she's like, stay away from me. Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. And he's like, give me the bat. And she's like, don't hurt me. And this is the part I love when he goes, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna bash them right the fuck in. Just, I don't know why the phrasing bash them right the fuck in makes me chortle a little bit. It's so good.
Also interesting, he's always got like a cigarette burning by his like typewriting and stuff like that. Never seen him smoke a cigarette.
Wendy's smoking nonstop.
All the time.
She's swinging that bat and she's like, stay away from me. Just don't hurt me.
And then the other big spook is he hallucinates being back at the bar, except there's a party going on now, and then the old caretaker spills a bunch of shit on him because he's a server, and then they go in the bathroom. Phenomenal scene.
Phenomenal Target bathroom.
Yeah, Target looks like a Target bathroom. And they just have this awkward back and forth the whole time where Jack's doing that thing where he's like, I know something you don't know. And Jeeves is, not Jeeves, but, the servant or whatever. I can't remember. It's Gordy or Gordon or something like that.
Gene? Yeah, starts with a G for sure.
Yeah. Anyways, and he's just totally off put by Jack, and Jack's like, I've seen you before, and he's like, no, you haven't, and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, you used to be the caretaker here. And he's like, nope, I've never been the caretaker. And he's like, yeah, you have. He's like, I saw you on the news. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, you chopped up your wife and your 2 girls, whatever. And he's like, I have no recollection of that, and whatever. He's like, oh, of course you did. Yeah, you lost it and stuff like that. And then he eventually breaks, and he's like, but you've always been the caretaker, and I've always been the servant, and stuff like that. And just using those vague terms, like saying like, I know he doesn't say the servant, but like whatever, like the help or whatever he says, just like being like, you're the caretaker, I'm the servant. It almost seems like it's like this play that they put on, which again plays into that thing, like I said, of the like the echo.
Yeah.
The residue, like, that's an analogy that people frequently use for ghosts, is that they're trapped in the most traumatic moment of their life or whatever, and they just have to live that on repeat. And in that sense, you play a part, like you are the caretaker, And so that just plays into that thing, and it's just so unsettling. Such an unsettling
scene. It's very you're right, and I love him being like, no, I don't know you. And I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But like Jack Nicholson doesn't even say anything.
Yeah, he's just cold stares the whole time like this, like, yeah. Oh, no, you chopped them out.
Yeah, and there's nothing specifically that Jack Nicholson says to him. I think he just goes, "Your son is trying to contact somebody to come to the hotel."
Yeah.
And then they say the N-word back and forth like 6 times.
They do say the N-word. This is something I frequently forget about this film.
It's just like Shaun of the Dead.
Absolutely. I always forget that aspect of the ghosts being trapped in 1921 or whatever. You hit the first N-word and you're like, whoa. Forgot that one. And then Jack says it and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, while you're...
Forgot that one.
You don't even have the last out from the first whoa, and you're like, whoa.
Oh, God, yeah. So that happens.
Yeah, but... Yes, okay. They say the N-word a bunch.
And then that guy goes like, and I had to correct my girls. And then I had to correct my wife. And you're like, God damn.
It's, again, just more of that, like, dream logic where he's just like, no, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Your son's trying to get somebody here, and I killed my wife and daughter.
Yeah.
It's great. Like, so much... I'll go back to this. Keep saying what you're saying. Say more.
Talk. Oh, I don't know if I have more. I was just going to say... what was I going to say next?
We're running through the spookies.
Yeah. Well, the specifically about the correct thing. What's another spooky? The only other big spook in that category I can think of, for me, I've always loved this scene. It almost could be a painting in my house. I know it's fucking gross or whatever, to a degree, but like, yeah, just when Wendy's running through the hotel and she looks in and she sees the dog with his ass flapped down, pretty clearly, I would say, blowing a businessman.
Yeah.
Full-grown man dressed like a dog blowing a businessman. Here's something that ties into the cold open. I didn't know furries went back that far. Oh, that was a current thing that we were doing.
There's all the Scientology, yeah.
Yeah, that we were freaking, that we were just getting our freak on a little bit. But no, I guess we've always been getting freaky.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, we've always been. You and I have been getting, yeah.
I had a big argument with someone at work the other day, and I found myself defending furries very vehemently.
Yeah?
Yeah, do what you like. I got no problem with furries. And someone at work was like, that's just gross. Like, why would you do that? And I was like, and as nicely as possible, I was like, fuck off. Like, yeah, just fuck off. Like, I was trying to just reiterate that over and over again. And I was just like, eat shit. I don't know what your problem is. Just people, it's not a sexual thing. It definitely can be, but people feel more comfortable in like themselves in a big cartoon dog costume. Fucking fuck off. I don't know what to say to you.
Yeah.
So this podcast is pro furry is what we're getting at. Yiff all day and all night.
There you go.
Is that what it's called?
I don't know.
I think
I've heard the term yiff before, yeah.
I think that means when they fuck.
Damn Bush is yiffing at me again.
Hold on, I gotta Google. Okay, I'm gonna open the incognito tab and Google yiffing because I gotta know what that means.
It's gotta be sniffing.
Yiff is a slang term used in the furry community to refer to pornographic content. It's considered a tongue-in-cheek term in the furry fandom. The term is also used as a way to insult members of the furry fandom, such as the phrase "yiff in hell." I'm gonna start saying that from now on. Yiff in hell.
Oof. So yeah. Anyways, other than that, I can't think of any like huge spookies other than at this point.
Elevator.
What's that?
The elevator.
Like you mean like just the blood?
Yeah.
That's huge spooky. But at that point, the conversation in the bathroom seems to when Jack figures out like, okay, I gotta kill Wendy and Danny.
Mm-hmm.
So from then on, you get the basically what I'll refer to as the chase. Great. Love little things like Danny hiding in the little service, waiter tray thing or whatever. Cart.
Dumb waiter.
Yeah, the dumb waiter. You get the very iconic scene where Wendy is held up in the bathroom.
She throws him out the window.
Yeah. Couple of things. One, there's great footage of Jack Nicholson getting into character for that.
Mm-hmm.
Does he need to? Does it come off as like a little like, oh, he's hamming it up? Sure, but also like I was thinking about it because it's gonna be the most pretentious thing I've ever said. I've acted in like short films before, and honestly, like when you're doing something like over the top like that, like I feel like it would help you be able to get over the nerves part if you just start making an ass of yourself then, and just going for it because you're like, I'm about to go for it, and I don't want to get self-conscious while I'm doing it, so I'm gonna start being weird now, so everybody gets used to the fact that I'm about to be really weird,
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, that's great. Like he's getting into the moment. That's good.
Yeah.
Right. Letting inhibition go, and it works because the whole time, like when he's like, and I'll huff and I'll puff. And I'll blow your house in.
That scene's so good.
Yeah.
And it's so I've seen it recreated a million times. We all have. But it's so good, and it gets me, and I'm just in that trance of this movie.
Yeah.
And then when he pops his head through and goes, "Here's Johnny,"
it doesn't even break.
No, it breaks.
Oh, it breaks you?
It just like yanks me out, and I go,
"Oh, really?
Oh.
That's crazy."
I have to shake it off for a second, and then I'm back.
Because I was gonna say, as far as my experience goes, it almost seems like a moment that should be like Chucky and Child's Play making like a joke or something like that. But for some reason, I just like. It almost comes off more so like him playing with Wendy. Like
it's good. It's I think it's on par with the Huff and Puff and I'll blow this door down.
Yeah.
And just doing a Johnny Carson thing. That's great. That's awesome. But the fact that I've seen it 1 million times in my life yanks me straight out of the movie.
Yeah. And then the thing that another thing I just totally forget about until it happens. I love that there's like 30 to 45 seconds on screen where just dead ass after that. They start hearing Scatman Crothers pull up, and so for 45 seconds, the only thing you can hear is just, and it just keeps cutting back and forth between Wendy and Jack as they just stand there, frozen by the idea that like, oh shit, there's someone else here. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of like an activity that only can operate when two people are engaged in. As soon as a third person is there, you kind of got to drop the act and like figure out like, oh god, there's another person here now.
Yeah, it's almost like. It's like mom and dad are fighting and someone knocks at the door. It's like, I don't want anyone else to see this. Like, oh, cool, this is going to be over, but this is also pretty embarrassing.
And it's not over. Scatman Crothers is kind of walking around. He's like, hello? Which
is great. It was something you were saying while we were watching it, just like probably like the hardest part about writing something is like having everybody do the wrong thing.
Yeah. Because in your brain, you're always like the moment I was talking about it was like once him and Wendy are like, he's had the nightmare and Wendy's comforted him, and then Danny came downstairs and he was hurt, whatever, and they're like back in the room or something like that. And Wendy's like, oh, there's someone else in the whatever. It's somewhere around there where like there's just a clear moment where it's like, okay, everything is like subsided for the most part, and the logical answer here is like, let's just get the fuck out of here, right? But they don't. Instead, they sit down and Jack says like something about how they can't leave, but he's not being a dick like he is later when he's like, do you have any fucking understanding of what a contractual obligation I have here? He's not doing that. He just has like a soft thing where he's like, well, we're gonna stay one more night, whatever it is, or we'll go in the morning or whatever it is. And yeah, you're right. Like the hardest part, I think is like both from experience and like seeing other people write and hearing other people talk about writing, is that yeah, you have to have people consistently make the wrong decision, but as you said, it also has to still track, because like if someone makes the wrong decision, i.e. in a horror movie, here's the most cliche example, when they're like, why would you run upstairs instead of run out of the fucking front door? It's a perfect example. As a writer, you need them to go upstairs, but it doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
But if you're a good writer, you find a way to make it make sense, you know?
That's why I love when Scatman Crothers shows up and he's just walking around going, hello? Hey, is anybody here? And you see Jack like hear him and go, oh no, I gotta kill this guy. And you're like, fucking, why are you yelling through the hallways? But also, yeah, that's what you gotta do. How are you gonna, it's a big empty hotel.
Yeah, you gotta get someone's attention.
You gotta get someone's attention. You gotta find these people. That's how you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
That's great.
He gets axed immediately right in the chest. It sucks.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Scatman Crothers, I can't get over it. Scatman Crothers is so good in this movie.
So good in this movie.
We watched part of the making of that was on the DVD right after this. There's that scene where they were like, they're talking to Scatman Crothers. They're like, what's it like working with whatever that boy's name who plays Danny?
Yeah.
And he's like, it is just a gift to work with all these wonderful people. And he's crying.
Yeah, and he literally says, I'll remember this forever.
Yeah.
Which is such a heavy thing to say. He's
like,
talking about the kid, and he was like, he reminds me of my son. And it's just a joy to get to spend time with him. Yeah.
Because if I'm crying, they are tears of joy. It's like, God damn, Scatman.
But anyways, you know, another thing also is like, this is a little separate, but yeah, there's that nice interaction that Scatman has with that mechanic that he knows. And that just paints such a rich portrait of like Scatman, and you know, he talks about being the head chef, and it just, without them saying anything about like how like this job is my life or whatever, you just get this like sense of like their life, their day to day, like how they know each other and stuff like that. Great. Anyways, back to the spook. Danny and Wendy will link up, and they run into the maze. No, where does Wendy go during that time? Don't they link up for a second? Or is it, it's not until after Danny goes into the maze that they link up, right? Wendy and Danny.
Danny comes out of the maze. That's when they link up.
Yeah, but before that, they don't link up. I don't know where Wendy's at during this time. But anyways.
I think she's just running around the hotel seeing the dog blow a guy and the blood coming out.
Oh, yeah, and finding the dead body and stuff like that. It's also worth mentioning that Jack, you know, fucked up the radio and the snowplow. Classic spooky movie stuff.
I was thinking about it. This is one of those things I was telling you earlier. I was like, I had so much to talk about, and I forgot about all of it. I remember this one. I love when she locks him in the freezer, and he's in there, and you get that great shot from underneath him, and he's up against the door, and he's like mad. He's like, you gotta fucking let me out of here. And then he gets, you know, calm. He's like, oh, Wendy, you hurt me real bad.
I think I need a doctor.
I love while he's doing all of that, and like you can even see it on his face where he gets like calm and like sympathetic and like, oh God, I need whoever. He's still, while he's doing it, he still has one hand on the door handle and the other side of the door. Like he's like, she's gonna open this door.
I'm just gonna
fucking ram her. Like even while he's like quiet and constantly, it's so good. Like he's just like, I'm fucking ready. It's so good.
He also reminded me that the ghost lets him out of the fucking thing.
Oh yeah, that's right. The ghost lets him out.
Because he wakes up after sleeping on like a fucking sack of flour or whatever, and there's just like Oreos and shit
and stuff. Yeah,
which is so funny to me because I love that idea that he's this psychopathic killer that's about to kill his fucking family. He's gone fucking insane. He's talking to ghosts, and ghosts are making sense to him. On top of that,
yeah.
And then he's almost got to kill his wife, and then his wife locks him in the fucking whatever, and he's just like, no, well, I guess I'll take a little nap.
Yeah, I love.
But first, I think I'm a little hungry. I'm gonna look at Oreos, and he just smashes out on Oreos and falls asleep on a sack of flour.
Yeah. It's something I see all the time when people like talk about like the mysteries of this movie. It's just like well, how did Jack get out of the freezer? How would that have happened? Ghosts.
Ghosts.
It's a fucking ghost.
There's a ghost seller at this place.
That's the one thing that makes me it makes me more upset than the Minotaur poster.
But yeah, as you were saying, there's a lot of little things inside of this. One that you noticed is like when he goes on the Scatman goes into the walk-in cooler, then the shot of him leaving it, like the door's on the wrong side or whatever, the handle or whatever. Yeah,
that's the thing I've been meaning to bring up.
Yeah,
but I keep because I was going to save it for the end.
Yeah,
I'll talk about it now.
Yeah.
No, fuck it. I'll save it still.
All right, save it. Back in the bank. Yeah, they go into the maze. Danny has that great idea to start backtracking his steps and then, hop over to the side and brush up all his steps so he can't see it and then run off. And obviously Jack gets stuck in the maze and dies frostbitten and the whatever. And Wendy and Danny are fine.
The one thing I don't like about the movie is the dead frozen Jack Nicholson looks just a little off to me, and it takes me out.
I think it's because he's like cross-eyed. It almost comes off like a comedy bit that he's a little cross-eyed, but I get you. And that's such a I love the mixed bag of an ending because Danny and Wendy are fine and they've gotten away, and in a sense they've broken the routine, they've broken the loop. So does that mean they're fine, or is this damned to happen over and over and over and over and over again?
We gotta watch Dr. Sleep to find out.
Is that really something that gets addressed?
I got no idea.
Okay, because I didn't know.
Danny's the main character of it.
I've never heard anyone talk about this aspect of it, but just watching it this time, I was thinking like, well, they kind of break the loop, so I think they might be actually free. Because at first I was like, oh, that's bittersweet because it's just going to keep happening and again. But I would say personally, I feel like they broke the loop and it's done for them.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't match the script of what's happened a million times to this point. Then you get that great scene where it just ends with the shot of, that you've always been here. The photographic evidence of the you've always been here.
Yeah, I love that just disgustingly long shot.
Yeah.
Pushing down the hallway and that old 20s music playing and then it closes in on the picture and July 4th, 1921, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say perhaps the only thing I don't like is when Wendy sees the hotel covered in comical amounts of cobweb and bones skeletons everywhere. I don't like that shot.
Feels a little goosebumpsy, yeah.
Yeah, you could cut that, and this movie would be the better for it, but it's also not a hindrance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think it's time for you to take that out of the vault.
Yeah, I just
whip it out, boy.
It's just I just love this movie. It's so we made the joke 1,000 times while watching it. This is the first A24 film.
Yeah,
like every
astronomically influential. Yeah,
yeah. Every good movie that I see that I like is just this.
Yeah, kind of doing what The Shining did. Like almost any A24 movie you've seen, it's tapping into this like weird surreal, like what do they mean, vagary, but also it's loosely makes sense. Like
and like I'm sure this movie has to be taking something from somewhere else.
Yeah,
like this movie has to be inspired by something somewhere. But from my knowledge and what I know, most things that I like film wise, like modern movies or Twin Peaks, just all feel like they come from here.
Yeah.
And then also has that added layer of that 70s 80s sheen of a movie over it. So it just feels so much cooler.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And
I hate that about my lizard brain. Like I really do look at a lot of modern movies and I'm like, I just can't get into it because of this guy's haircut and the fucking shirt that guy's wearing and just how crisp all this is. Like it just it looks too much like my like not even my, but just like an H&M commercial. It kind of looks, like it looks gappy. It looks like something from the Gap, and it just reeks of late aughts, teens.
I get that. Yeah.
General like kind of corporate like this is what a man is and this is what a woman is like.
Yeah, and it goes back to what you were saying about Scatman talking to the guy at the gas station. It's like you just don't get a lot of scenes in movies nowadays of just blue collar workers doing stuff.
Yeah, or even people going to the gas station and talking to the clerk or whatever. There's like a lot of just little things that like make sense that they're not in movies anymore because it's not true to life. But it's almost to the point where like, well, what does modern life look like? I guess
I still think modern life looks like for a lot of people working at a gas station.
It does,
but and what you see in movies now, modern life is Silicon Valley, I guess.
Yeah,
and just
we had that
like
conversation too. Yeah. That's the thing is like I think it's not true to enough lives to have all of your main characters be like, well, actually, I'm trying to develop a new engine sound for electric cars, and like, oh, I work for home. Like there's a lot of that.
In your comedy movie, one person at least is developing an app.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, there's something so tactile about this, and that's one of the reasons why I think like things like this are so enduring rather. And I think that's one of the reasons why you see things like Stranger Things doing so well, or even a lot of movies try to do that thing where they like try to have like an older feel to them. And I think that's why, because it's more tactile. It feels a little more true to life. It's almost like fable stuff, where like you can relate to it better than.
But I would also
these sort of like modern takes on life.
I feel like you could do that in the year 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Just make it just normal people.
Yeah.
Just nice, good old fashioned folk.
Yeah, I mean, Everything Everywhere All at Once is a great example. There's just people who own a laundromat.
Yeah.
That's all they do. They own a laundromat.
It's on the app in sight in that movie.
And they wear normal clothes that look like clothes I see people wearing.
Yeah.
And they have a dirty house that looks like the dirty houses I've seen.
Fucking IRS, and they talk to what's-her-face, and she's a woman I've seen at a million different government buildings I've been to. That's
one of the things I love about it. It's perfect.
Yeah.
So it does happen. I'm not just shitting on modern movies in general. I'm just saying that there's a lot of just that thing where like everything's like overly clean, and everybody's got like a nice cut beard, and they're wearing like a V-neck that's also striped.
Jack Nicholson in this is losing his fucking hair. Shelley Duvall's teeth are kind of all over the place. It's great. I love it.
I love that too. I love, of course, there's always been that thing where at the top of the top, your movie stars are just fucking gorgeous. But it seems like throughout the 70s to the 90s, they were just like, Danny DeVito, you can be one of the greatest actors of all time. Jack Nicholson, you can be one of the greatest actors.
I was thinking about while I was watching RoboCop a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And can't think of his name. Curtis, something, the bad guy in RoboCop, the dad from that 70s show. I was like, put ugly people in movies. Mm-hmm. I love looking at this guy. Like looking at pretty people on the screen is nice, But when I see a dude that looks like Red Foreman, I'm like, God.
Even Adam Driver's a good example.
Yeah.
He looks interesting. He's not ugly. I know a lot of people always say like, oh, Adam Driver's like ugly or whatever. I'm like, no, he's not. He just looks. He's just like a person, like a fucking person.
Yeah, it's just like, but but he's also on the side of what I'm talking about, where he's like, for better or worse, striking. Like, I
want to look at Adam Driver.
Can't take my eyes off this wonky dude.
Like, for example, I don't mean this in like a mean way. Chris Evans seems like a really cool guy, super nice guy. Mm-hmm. But like when I see him in a movie, I'm always like, that's too perfect. He's too perfect looking.
Yeah. That guy,
he looks like someone carved him. He's fucking gorgeous for sure.
He is a golden retriever of a man.
Yeah. But I don't buy him in any role other than Captain America. He can't be anything less than a fucking god.
I highly disagree with that. I think he's pretty good in everything that he's in.
No, I'm not saying he's bad.
No, I know. But
I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying like his build is like I don't buy him as just.
No, I
guy.
get what you mean. He's one of those guys where that's his essence is like a football player, soldier guy.
His essence is definitely a fucking movie star.
But when I see he's almost a Brad Pitt type, where it's like you're a really good character actor in a leading man's body, and I feel bad for you because I think him and Brad Pitt both are really, really good actors, and they can do almost anything. Yeah, but they don't really get to because they're so pretty.
I will say that Brad Pitt still has a little bit of that thing where he seems like a guy who you'd be like, "What the fuck you doing waiting tables here? You're too handsome."
Yeah,
like there's something about his essence that also screams, why are you underachieving?
That's why I love him so much in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah, because there's all that mystique around him of like, did he kill his wife? So everyone, like, nobody really likes him, and there's nowhere for his career to go. So he's just this insanely handsome guy. Yeah, it's just kind of a schlub. Yeah, and can't really get anywhere in Hollywood. But that's just his lot in life. It's great. I love it, and he gets to just be that second banana. Yeah. Just character actor that he gets to be. It's great. Anyway, I like The Shining.
Well, let's run it down a little more. I would even say, to a little degree, when I see David Cross in movies or TV show, same thing. Or even Mark Ruffalo, although that's pushing it because he's really fucking handsome, but also he's got a little interesting to him.
Oh, I think Mark Ruffalo is a goofy looking dude. Yeah. But it's the perfect amount where he's just a little cutie because of it. Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds is another example of like that Chris Evans thing where I'm like, too handsome. You're too perfect. Yeah, I don't know. There's something about him where I'm like, you're too. My favorite. It looks like God was like, this is one of my favorites.
You know who's the perfect in between? Yeah. Ryan Gosling. Yeah.
Because
Ryan
he
Gosling,
it seems like he has a little lazy eye and shit.
he
like,
absolutely does, yeah. And he's
yeah.
not like, I think like the story is he got cast in The Notebook because the director was like, I don't want a handsome man as this main character, so he cast Ryan Gosling specifically because he thought he wasn't handsome.
Yeah.
But he's just got that like charm about him that he is just A-list movie star leading man. But also you can see him in Lars and the Real Girl or anything that he's in, and you're like, this guy's just a fun, wonky, likable dude, but he's also an A-list movie star. He's great.
It reminds me of like the roguish, slubbery, like young Harrison Ford, because there was definitely a point where Harrison Ford became a fucking hunk, I think. Mm-hmm. But especially like the first Star Wars, he just kind of looks a little bit like a dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But then like you see pictures of him like not in Star Wars, so he's got some stubble.
Yeah,
and
you're
got,
like, holy shit.
A kind of loose-fitting shirt on. It's like, fuck, dude.
Yeah. But for some reason he looks a little schlubby in the first Han Solo role.
Yeah.
But yeah, The Shining, very good.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, and everything goes back to it and blah blah blah. And I think this movie is just untouchable.
Yeah.
Like in the way, nothing about it, everything about it works to such a small level that, like, and it's just got this logic about it that even if there are continuity errors, like what we were saying, like I noticed while we were watching this, the handle on the door of the freezer changes sides over and over and over again, and I don't know if that's on purpose or not.
Yeah.
And so there's just, this movie is airtight, and even when there's holes in it like that, maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah. This and Twin Peaks, I'm sure there's other examples, but for some reason these are two things where like I have seen footage of people making these shows, and yet when I'm watching it, it seems like something like a tree. Like I don't it feels like nobody made this. It just exists.
Yeah.
Like I said, like The Shining feels like a dream you have remembered from last night, you know?
Yeah. And it just, again, just everything I love about everything when it comes to movies is just in this movie.
Yeah.
Chris, I think this is my favorite movie.
Yeah.
I think I've come to that conclusion. Yeah.
Yeah, I was definitely thinking about that during this. I was like, man, there's some shit that whips ass in the horror genre that I love, but this might be my favorite horror movie because this is something that's just terrifying. Everything about it, whether it's ghosts or not, if you just like turn off that part of your brain that believes in ghosts, even the interaction he's having, if it's a hallucination or if it's a real person or whatever you want to say it is, like these are just scary things because they're uncanny, and that's the scariest thing.
Yeah, and my thing is like I don't even consider this really, like when I think about it, a horror movie. Like all the stuff we were talking about, like yeah, that's good, that's spooky, but like there are horror movies that I watch that I'm like, I'm shaking in my little boots.
Yeah.
And like days go by and I'm still just a little spooked by it.
Yeah.
This movie has never scared me.
Yeah.
You know? It's just like there's some stuff where I'm like, yeah, that's startling and that's spooky, and there's just this overwhelming sense of dread over all of it. But
Yeah.
I just love it so much.
Yeah, there is a degree to which like it transcends having like the genre thing. It's not necessarily a genre picture, and it's almost something like The Wizard of Oz, where like Jack goes to the land of Oz. Like you're just on a journey. It's just a movie.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh yeah, that horror movie The Shining or whatever. Like it's like this is a movie, you know, that you just put on the shelf next to other movies, not just like, oh yeah, isn't that like Frankenstein or Friday the 13th? Like yeah. It's also a movie.
Yeah.
The Shining's a movie.
It sure is, Chris.
A+.
I'm gonna give it the S.
The S tier.
I'm gonna give it the S. Yeah.
Turns out the S the whole time it always meant Shining.
Yep, the S stands for Shining. When you're playing a Japanese game and you get an S+, you're getting a Shining plus.
There you go. All right, that's that, Scat Man.
If you need more soup, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or go to our website, eatingsoupalone.com. And until next time,